The phone call lasted 3 minutes. After 12 years of working 2 jobs in Canada, sending every dollar home, I finally had news to share. Big news, life-changing news. But when I told them, there was silence. Then my mother's voice, cold and measured. "Don't waste money on that." I stood frozen in my apartment, feeling something inside me crack. 12 years. And in 3 minutes, everything changed. What happened next? They called unforgivable. Stay till the end. I'm sharing my honest opinion on whether she was justified or went too far. If you know what it means to be burdened by tradition, to feel like a financial tool instead of a beloved child, hit that like button. Subscribe, because this is the story of how I walked away from a family that demanded everything and offered nothing. My name is Sana, and this is how I finally prioritized my own life at 32. In my family, being the eldest child wasn't a position of honor. It was a contract, a quiet, heavy contract signed at birth. My 2 brothers and 2 sisters looked to me, but the expectations came directly from my parents. Their duty was to educate me just enough to become the financial engine for the entire family. It didn't matter if the eldest was a son or a daughter. That responsibility was mine. When I was 18, they poured every last rupee they had, and borrowed heavily, to send me to Canada on a student visa. It wasn't an investment in my future. It was a calculated business loan in theirs. The goal was simple and constantly repeated. Go, work, get PR, and send money. Your siblings depend on you. The first few years were sheer survival. The weight of that debt and that responsibility was crushing. I landed in Toronto in the dead of winter, and the cold was a physical reminder of the isolation. I lived in a shared basement, the damp chill seeping into my bones. The apartment was cramped, the lights were harsh, and the only constant sound was the frantic tapping of keyboards from other students equally terrified of failure. Every day was a blur of classes, 2 low-paying jobs, working illegal hours in a hot, greasy kitchen after class, followed by long, lonely shifts, cleaning commercial offices late at night. I remember scrubbing industrial floors at 3 a.m., my body aching, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and thinking, this is the price of their comfort. On every call, they would skillfully manipulate me, painting vivid pictures of their poverty and the crippling loans they had to pay back. "We did this for you," my father would sigh, the audio crackling slightly, making his distress sound even more dramatic. "Now the repayment is on your shoulders. If you fail, we lose everything. We will lose the house, the family honor, everything." This constant guilt-tripping ensured I never felt the freedom of my new country. While other students were enjoying their youth, traveling, or dating, I was working. I never bought new clothes. I never ate out. Every Canadian winter felt doubly cold, knowing that my discomfort was paying for my brother's nice clothes and my sister's tuition back home. I never missed a transfer. Every month, a substantial portion of my earnings went straight back. They never asked if I could afford it. They just told me what they needed it for. I was running a remittance service, not building a life. I have aged. Years became a decade. I missed funerals, weddings, and every significant family event. "Don't waste the money on a ticket," my mother would say, almost annoyed by the suggestion. "Just send the equivalent amount. We need that money more than we need a hug. Focus on that PR, and we will cover for you. Everyone here thinks you're busy building a wonderful life and enjoying Canada. Don't worry about appearances here." My own life became a cheap, disposable backdrop to their expensive, comfortable reality, while they maintained the illusion that my sacrifice was temporary and my future was secure. The one thing they truly covered for me was my absence, ensuring the local community blamed my relentless ambition rather than their relentless demands. The years passed with grinding monotony. I sacrificed my social life, my relationships, and my own educational pursuits to work overtime. The constant financial pressure was the only thing I knew. I pushed past exhaustion and loneliness, driven by the single promise: getting permanent residency would validate the sacrifice. It meant stability, status, and finally, the right to come home on my own terms. The worst part was watching the immediate, total consumption of my labor. My money didn't just cover bills. It powered their entire ascent. Over those 12 years, my checks secured major milestones for my family. Events I only saw through blurry, badly lit photos. First, they moved out of their cramped rental apartment and into a large, comfortable house that I had effectively purchased for them. They sent me a picture of the new facade, a grand, bright home, and my father's caption was simply, "Our dreams are fulfilled. Thank you." There was no invitation, no acknowledgement of the years of overtime it took. Next, my older brother married, and I funded the entire elaborate wedding. I watched the video of the huge reception, hundreds of guests, glittering gold jewelry, and a feast that cost more than my entire annual rent in Canada. My brother, in his new suit, never mentioned me in his speech. Then my younger sister married, and I funded her wedding too. This was followed by the biggest task yet. When my younger brother wanted to start his own business, my savings, my future retirement money, were drained again to provide his initial capital. I was their quiet, invisible bank, making every one of their dreams a reality while my own life stalled. The siblings, having grown up watching me function purely as a financial utility, never questioned it. They simply learned to expect that if they needed something, Sana's account would provide. They were recipients of a lavish life I paid for, and they acted like they deserved every cent. I finally reached 32. In our society, this is considered a late, almost impossible age for a woman to find a partner. My parents, who were quick to spend my money, were agonizingly slow to hide their pity and judgment about my single status. "We are constantly watching for a good proposal for you, but you must focus on your work in Canada," my mother would lament during video calls, completely ignoring that the so much working was funding their mortgage, 2 weddings, and a business. "We are doing our best, but you are not leaving us much room with your dedication to the office." They had achieved stability and comfort using my sacrifice, yet they still showed absolutely no feeling or gratitude toward me. On my 32nd birthday, I bought myself a small, cheap cake. I lit a single candle and stared at my reflection. 12 years gone. I was physically and emotionally exhausted, perpetually alone, and my bank account was constantly fighting to stay above zero. I felt like a failure who had only succeeded at being a good ATM. Still, I held on to hope. My PR application was finally accepted. 12 years. I was bursting with pride, anticipation, and a deep, aching desire to see my parents and hug my siblings. I started calculating the flight costs, planning the gifts, imagining the reunion. I decided to call them immediately with the good news. This was the moment they had waited for, the payoff for their initial investment. I called them on a Saturday morning, trembling with excitement. I took a deep breath, trying to keep the joy from bubbling over too quickly. "Mama, Papa, I got it. I got my permanent residency. It's official," I choked out, tears of relief and joy streaming down my face. Now I can finally come home to visit. "I'm thinking of booking a ticket for the spring." There was a silence on the other end, a deep, uncomfortable, awkward gasp that lasted for 3 full seconds. It was the sound of my emotional value being calculated and instantly dismissed. My father spoke first, his voice lacking any trace of pride. "Oh, you want to visit? Why would you spend so much money on a ticket, Sana?" I felt a dizzying wave of coldness wash over me. I gripped the phone tighter. "But Papa, it's been 12 years. I miss you all. We can finally be a family again, even for a short trip." Then my mother chimed in, her tone pragmatic, instantly killing any remaining warmth. "Sana, everything is the same here. Same family, same neighbors. Why visit? You can spend so much money. That money is better sent home. If you have that money, give it to us. You know your younger sister's marriage is next year. We need every single penny for the dowry and the final arrangements." The air left my lungs. I sank onto my sofa, the phone feeling heavy and cold against my ear. They were looking at the cost of a flight ticket, the symbol of my 12-year struggle, as money they were losing. They saw my accomplishment as a potential financial distraction. "You don't care about seeing me?" I whispered, my voice thick with betrayal, tears threatening to return. "Of course we care," my mother snapped, annoyed by the emotional drama. "But you are 32 now. You need to be practical. That money is better used for family stability. Don't be selfish, Sana. You know your duty." The word selfish hit me harder than the demand for money. It was then, standing alone in my small Canadian apartment, that I shattered. The weight of all the debt, all the overtime, all the lonely birthdays. It pressed down on my chest until it physically hurt to breathe. I wasn't their daughter. I was a resource. I was the ATM machine. and they were annoyed that the machine was demanding a temporary service interruption for maintenance. I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry, my throat choked with rage and grief. The old obedience was gone, replaced by a cold, searing clarity. They didn't deserve a penny more. I mumbled, "I have to go," hung up the phone and cried until I couldn't breathe. I was 32. I had sacrificed my entire young adult life, and the people I did it for had confirmed I was worthless to them outside of my bank balance. My revenge wasn't a sudden explosion, but a slow, cold freeze-out. It was the calculated termination of the ATM daughter persona. The moment I hung up that phone, I canceled my life of sacrifice. I immediately stopped taking all my overtime shifts, the very shifts that funded their business and their weddings. My focus was no longer on their survival, but my own comfort. I drastically reduced the monthly amount I sent home, ensuring it was just enough to maintain the facade of my responsibility, but nowhere near enough for a sister's lavish wedding. When they demanded to know why the transfer was so small, I gave a calm, professional lie over text. The loans are settled. My financial obligations are changing, and my new professional hours limit my income. This is the new final amount. I cannot afford more. The communication shifted dramatically. When they called or texted demanding an answer, I replied late, sometimes a full day later. I had spent 12 years jumping when they called. Now they were waiting on my convenience. Their frantic messages went unanswered while I took a long shower or finished a novel. The money I now kept? I used it to finally live. I bought myself a soft, beautiful winter coat I had always admired, ate a luxurious, expensive meal alone at a quiet restaurant, and booked a short, expensive solo vacation to the West Coast, the first time I had seen an ocean in a decade. I started making more time for the friends I had neglected. Around the 6-month mark, my life truly began to take shape. I started dating, and the contrast between the kindness of the man I met and the cold demands of my family was shocking. I met someone genuine and kind, and I gradually started building a happy relationship, free from my parents' financial control. This was the final piece of the revenge. I initiated a video call. I didn't want them to misunderstand. I wanted them to see my new life and hear the truth. I made sure to sit near a window where the soft Canadian light illuminated my face and my new, peaceful apartment. My mother started immediately, her voice laced with guilt and rising fury. "Sana, the wedding funds are impossible. Your sister's engagement is next month, and you are wasting your money on vacations instead of your sister's dowry. We need you to send more. We need to save the family honor." I cut her off, my voice steady and cold. "Stop. You need to save for yourselves. I am not an ATM for a lifetime. I have paid for your house, 2 weddings, and a business. That debt is settled. I built my life here, in Canada, because you forced me to. I am building my life here now, and I will be building a life with my partner." That's when the mask dropped. The calculated manipulation vanished, replaced by pure, ugly rage. They began to shout, abusing me, calling me selfish, ungrateful, and a disgrace. They threw every guilt trip they had used for 12 years. "You have shamed us enough by never visiting. The neighbors talk. When you finally come back, the entire community will see you as a spinster and a failure." My father bellowed, his face red and distorted on the screen. I felt a cold, clear surge of finality. I let them finish the tirade. Then I said the words that closed the door forever. "The shaming is done, Papa. You did that by proving you valued my money more than my presence, and that is why I am not coming home. Why would I come now?" I hung up, blocked them all, and deleted the app. The connection was severed, but this time, it was me holding the scissors, and the final cut was clean. Sana's revenge was a slow burn of public self-prioritization. She didn't cut them off entirely. She simply downgraded them from a priority to a minor inconvenience. Her money was no longer funding their dreams but her reality, forcing them to confront the devastating loss of their ATM daughter while she finally started living. So, here's the burning question. After everything she sacrificed, was Sana justified in cutting them off so coldly? Yes, she did the right thing, and my verdict is absolute. Sana was fully justified in cutting off her family. They never saw her as a person worth visiting, only as a wallet worth emptying. However, my reflection is complex. While her parents were unforgivable for their exploitation, Sana holds a small fault as well. In any relationship, the giver must decide the limit, because the taker will never find one. Sana allowed them to define her worth for 12 years, and that exhaustion, that level of sacrifice, was unnecessary. Her final move was an absolute act of justice, but the real victory is realizing that the boundary should have been set the moment they asked for the first large sum. What do you think? Drop your opinion in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories where tradition is met with a devastating reality check.